Right now, the biggest thing in the WWE is, of course, the Bloodline and this story that has been going on for many years. The foundation, the build up, eventually the loss of Roman Reigns, and now him coming back to reclaim his kingdom. Bloodline would not be the Bloodline without the original branch of the Wild Samoans. And unfortunately, within 2 months of each other, both Sika and Afa have passed away. Afa, of course, the father of Samu, who would become a head shrinker, and then Sika, the father of Rosie, as well as Roman Reigns. Um, they they rarely spoke in interviews, um, and they would talk in a dialect that they would have to have a manager to explain. Another fun connecting piece between the Samoans and the Bloodline is, of course, Paul Heyman. And Paul Heyman learned how to be a manager from the Wild Samoans managers, Captain Lou Albano. And he was the only one that could understand their dialect. Their father was a blood brother to their trainer, High Chief Peter Maivia. So that's how the Maivia and Anawai families got together. Their father and Peter Maivia were blood brothers. They began their career in Stu Hart's Stampede Wrestling, winning the International Tag Team titles on 2 occasions. And in 1975, they made their debut in the United States for big time wrestling in none other than Detroit. Throughout the 70s, they wrestled in various NWA territories, as well as going over to Japan. But it wasn't until 1979 that they showed up in the WWF. Simply the Samoans, before reverting to the Wild Samoans. Every so often, they'd be known as Albano's Wild Men, and they made their debut, of all places, or they made their Madison Square Garden debut on January 21st, 1980, in a tag team championship match against Tito Santana and Ivan Putski. They did not win the tag team titles, but they would end up winning them in the WWF 3 times. They would also feud for the WWF Championship. Both men became contenders for Bob Backlund's title. And the first time they won the tag titles in the WWF was shortly after their feuds with Bob Backlund. They ended up defeating Santana and Putski. Then they dropped the titles to Backlund and Pedro Morales at Showdown at Shea, which we've talked about on here. That's where the heavyweight and Intercontinental champions won the tag titles, and then they had to relinquish them because Backlund was already the WWF champion. The Samoans ended up winning them back in the tournament to crown new tag champions. And then they ended up losing them to Tony Garea and Rick Martel. They were unable to capture the gold back. They ended up showing up in Mid-South Wrestling, where Big Cat Ernie Ladd was their financial advisor and manager. They actually became the Samoan Warriors, and they ended up winning the Mid-South Tag Team titles. Then they would end up attacking Ernie Ladd. He sold their contracts, as one does, to Skandar Akbar. After leaving Mid-South, they did appear in Georgia Championship Wrestling, where they defeated the Freebirds for the NWA National Tag Team titles. They showed back up in the WWF with Captain Lou in '82. And this is where they began their third championship reign by defeating the Strongbows. They would end up losing the titles to Rocky Johnson and Tony Atlas, that famous first African-American tag team to win the titles. During the match, Albano tried to interfere on their behalf, and he accidentally hit Alpha. This would slowly turn them face, and they would have a lengthy feud for the tag titles against Adrian Adonis and Dick Murdoch, the North and South Connection. They would end up going to Pro Wrestling USA, which was an NWA-AWA combo, where they had a dream match versus the Road Warriors, where the bout, of course, ended in double DQ. This was the last time that the two would work together for quite some time. Sika would come back to the WWF from 86 to 88, where he was now being managed by Mr. Fuji, and he would sometimes wrestle by himself, or he'd team with Kamala. They did have a large match against the Can-Am Connection, which was Rick Martel and Tom Zink. And Sika also participated in the Battle Royal that opened WrestleMania 4. Alpha didn't show back up in the WWF until 1992, when he managed his son and nephew Fatu, better known as Rikishi, as the Head Shrinkers. But he would leave the WWF in 95, not before the Head Shrinkers would win Tag Team Gold. They made a few appearances throughout the NWA after they left the WWF, and they'd show up in Puerto Rico, but there was never anything long-standing, no full-time stints. Alpha also managed the Head Shrinkers in the WWF, as I mentioned, and then after that he continued to train other wrestlers for his World Extreme Wrestling promotion based in Pennsylvania. He actually opened this in the late 70s, and it was kind of a who's who of individuals who he trained. The school had graduates including Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, Junkyard Dog, Luna Vachon, Michael P.S. Hayes, Yokozuna, Bam Bam Bigelow, Rikishi, Sherry Martel, Virgil, Billy Kidman, Gene Snitsky, Canyon, and Batista. That's right, the Wild Samoans brought us Virgil.
Hey. We love Virgil.
The two men did reunite for one night in 19... Yeah. Both men reunited for one night in 1997, where they teamed with Gene Lejeune, Disco Inferno, and the Big Cheese. And they defeated Ken Timms, George Love, Jay Love, Gary Royal, and Kane Adams. In 2007, the night before WrestleMania 23 in Detroit, where they made their United States debut, the Wild Samoans were inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, getting inducted by their respective sons Samu and Matt Anoa'i, Matt, of course, being Rosie. 2013 and 2014, Alpha actually came out of retirement to wrestle for his World Extreme Wrestling promotion at the age of 71. The last time that we really saw the Wild Samoans, though, was at the 2020 Hell in a Cell, where they celebrated Roman Reigns' victory, and he officially became the Tribal Chief. With an AWA Southern Tag Team Championship, a NWA National Tag Team Championship, a Mid-South Tag Team Championship, NWA Tag Team Championship from Detroit, NWA US Tag Title, and 3 WWF World Tag Team Championships to their name, the Wild Samoans dominated the tag team division wherever they set foot. PWI ranked them at 93 of the 100 best tag teams during the PWI years in 2003. And as mentioned, they were a WWE Hall of Famer in 2007, a Pro Wrestling Hall of Famers in 2012. The Wild Samoans were a once-in-a-lifetime tag team that helped spawn, as I said, the numerous branches of the Anoa'i tree, which include Roman, Rikishi, the Usos, and Yokozuna, as well as many more. It's kind of it's a little eerie that as we're getting into this section of the bloodline feud where they're trying to figure out the true tribal chiefs, that the actual head of the tables were to pass away. So in a way, Roman Reigns does become the tribal chief for the Anoa'i clan, as his brother Rosie, of course, passed away some years ago as well. So it would be Roman and Samu, as well as any other siblings they have, but being that they're the two wrestling cousins, that would be the head of the table right now. Um, I'm curious to see if this is brought up at all in storyline. I don't think it'd be anything Paul Bear related, like where they said it was his ashes that they were scattering on the Undertaker. I think they do it respectfully. I just don't know how they do it yet. I'm sure this is going to play a big impact mentally into everyone involved, though. Just the respect and love that they had for their uncles, their uncles, or in Roman's case, his father. Plus, if you remember when Paul Heyman first started feuding with Roman Reigns before they teamed up, he mentioned how he used to travel with the original Wild Samoans. So this is a big blow for everyone involved. Like I said, just eerie. Not only the fact that the storyline's happening right now, but that within 2 months of each other, the tag team that came in together went out together. But
I like
we
I
have nothing but
I like to look at like what you're going through. I like to look at like their wiki and their cage match and stuff. So their cage match,
yeah,
something that I can respect about them. I've personally will have to go and check out some of their work more in depth as a podcast host. But they seem to stop wrestling full time, in that '85, and they had a couple shows. They did a show in '86, a few in '87, a few in '88, and then one in '89, and one in '91. They did not wrestle again to it was like a Legends show in '97, and like you said, that was it.
yeah.
Cheap payday. Um,
No, and then it's crazy too, considering Alpha came out of retirement in 2013, 2014. Because I know for a while, there's a lot of independent shows that would do this Legends Tag Team Gauntlet, and it had like Demolition, the Rock and Roll Express, the Steiners, um, but it had like the who's who of tag teams that were still around. So, like you said, you'd think they'd want a cheap payday. And I do have to give them credit too, because unlike other members of the family, they didn't act like they were above everyone else once the bloodline started, or even as The Rock got popular, Yokozuna got popular. They still just continued to respect the sport, respect the industry. Um, yeah, they were a great tag team, and I gained more respect for them as I researched the big time wrestling in Detroit. I find it very cool that, like I said, a team that helped begin one portion of the tree started in our own backyard in Detroit.
yeah.
But now, like I said, they leave their sons to continue their heritage. And then, fun fact as I finish up, Afa was the wrestling trainer for the 2008 film The Wrestler.
Really?
Yep,
So he got to make you work all right.
I guess so.
That's a movie I need to go watch again. I have not seen that in a hot minute.
I'm sure after listening to me talk about all these old timers, it'll probably give you a the respect for it. Be like, oh, Logan talked about something like that.
Hey. I have a lot of
Yeah,
respect
it
for the
is.
old timers, right?
Yeah, it is. It is unfortunate though. Like I said, the Wild Samoans passing, especially since in between their passing is when Kevin Sullivan passed away. There seems to be less and less of the old guard surviving. I know that's how life goes, but it's just sad to know that at one point that era is gonna just be completely gone. That era will be gone, and the '80s will only have Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair, and
Jeez.
I mean, yeah. But if you're interested in learning about other pro wrestling superstars that might not have gotten the respect they deserve, or that you're a little interested in, but you can't find a whole lot on, head over to our YouTube page where we have a whole playlist of PW profiles. We also have a playlist of PWP Superstar tributes, and some of those date back to before this incarnation of the pod. Date back to me using MS Paint to make a couple thumbnails. So go take a gander at those. Go take a listen to those. And as I say every time, hopefully we don't have to make another tribute video anytime soon. But I'd like to think, that we're doing them a little bit of justice.
Hey, this is Sick of the Wild Samoan Hall of Famer on the WE and known all over the world. And I want my fans to remember that everything is fine with me. There's a lot of rumor that I was supposed to be dead and this and that, but I'm not. This wild man is still around. And I'm glad that this young man is finally put me up on the website on this Facebook so I can talk to my fans. I want all the promoters out there, if you can, I can still get in that ring and play around in there. I can sign autographs. I can get in there for 10 minutes. Wherever it is that makes the business and the fan happy, I'm ready to do it. And call me and follow my Facebook. I'll be talking to you probably once, twice a week to tell you my story. And I'll thank you.